Yep.
Just want to make sure that you get it correct.
We don't have a flag.
That's
Oh, yes, we
confusing.
do.
So I'd like to welcome everybody to the January 25th Board of Directors meeting. And at this time, if you would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So this is the one meeting that I open. And at this time, I would like to ask if there's any nominations for board chair.
Mr. Superintendent,
Yes.
once again, it's my privilege to nominate Steve August to be the chairperson for the following year.
Thank you, Bill. Other nominations for chair? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of Steve August being chair, please raise your hand. Thank you. Anybody opposed? All right, it's unanimous. Congratulations, Steve.
Thank you, Patrick. Next item on the agenda is item 6, nominations and elections of vice chair. Do I hear nominations for vice chair?
I'll nominate the incumbent, Lou Engel, to be the vice chair for 21-22.
Okay, thanks, Bill. If we need a second for that, Patrick, I'm not sure. Ronnie, did you second it, Ronnie?
I'm willing, yes, I would second that.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? If not, nominations are closed. All in favor of Lou Ensel for vice chair for the next year? Any opposed? No? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lou. Okay, item 7, recognition and comments from the chair. Just to be brief, well, first I want to apologize to folks who have tuned in. We were a little bit late getting started tonight, and I apologize for that. We were in executive session and ran a little bit long on that. But thank you for joining us. This is going to be another whirlwind year, as last year was. We still have our school to open, and Patrick will give us a report on that. And God forbid, we're still dealing with COVID, and those issues still confront us. I do want to thank the board for all its hard work and support through last year, and it's going to be demanded of us again this year. And thanks to the community for working as steadfastly as you have with the schools and getting us through this very difficult, unsettled period. So thanks for all that. We have a new board member tonight, actually our second meeting, but our first regular board meeting. Jamie Dorr has joined us, and if you just want to say a couple of things, Jamie, that would be great, just to introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Jamie Dorr. As many of you know, I operate the Mid-Coast Youth Center, which is right next door to Bath Middle School. And so over the past 4.5 years or so, I've been able to really work closely with RSU1 district administrators, school administrators, teachers, students, and feel like I have a unique perspective to bring. And for the past few months, we've been offering distance learning support. So certainly opened my eyes to a whole new perspective that I hadn't had before. So I'm hoping that I can just use skills and abilities to continue to serve RSU1.
Great. Thank you. Oh, welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, so as we move through the agenda, we have a few action items. Under old business, we'll be adopting 3 or 4 policies. And then one additional action item under new business dealing with the acquisition of property. Okay, so item 8.0, we have minutes for the meetings of December 14 and January 7. And if it's okay, we'll take them both together. If we have a motion to approve those minutes.
Move approval.
Okay,
I'll second.
we have a motion to approve from Bill, second by Lou. Any adjustments to the minutes? Yep, Luana?
I had just a few, in the December 14th minute. It's just a technicality, but under the student representative report, it was recorded that the ski squad will compete in their first event on Wednesday, and it's a non-competitive club. Again, if we just might want to clarify that, it's not a ski team per se.
Okay. So you want to take the word compete out? Yeah.
I think so, just to alleviate any, it would be great if we had that, but we have a club, so
Okay,
non-competitive club, which is open to everyone.
so we just strike the phrase competition.
Mhm. And that was it for that.
Any changes to the special meeting, minutes of the special meeting, January 7th? If not, Bill, will you just
As amended.
as amended, Lou?
Yep, that's amended.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So we have the minutes of December 14 and January 7th as amended. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thanks. Item 10.0, public session, and we do not have anyone who has asked to make a public comment or submitted a comment in writing. 11.0, committee reports. 11.1, building project update. Patrick?
Yes, your report that you have showed a lot of pictures of the finished work that is being completed, and such as the interior doors, tiling, cabinetry, painting, and installing the student lockers. Furniture, the bulk of it has been delivered for students and for teachers, and it's been, again, delivered and assembled in the rooms. The donor pavers, the bricks, have been installed out in front of the building. Crates have been delivered to Morse and Bath Tech to our teaching staff in preparation for the move. And the training continues. We've had PA training. We have technology training on Wednesday of this week, and we continue to offer tours. We've had quite a few people show up on our tours on Fridays that we've offered, and we're going to continue to offer more. We just have to be sensitive as we get closer to the move time that that the contractor can handle as many tours that we're doing right now. And lastly, I just would like to say special thank you to Dave Richards, Kyler Fiegels, who is our clerk of the works, Ron Lamar, Deb Clark, Julie, and Eric. I'm sure there's people I'm leaving out, but those ones come to mind. Just the time that they've had to devote to this project, especially over the last 4 or 5 months, and attention to detail. I really do appreciate, again, the time and effort that they've put into this project to date. So any questions that you have for me?
Patrick, what about the street number?
The what?
The street number of the new building?
Oh, yeah. We're our plan is to go to a city council meeting on February 3rd, I believe it is, and and to be able to, I mean, Shipbuilder Drive is is the name of the road, but we would like to keep it 826 because of the tradition, that's been with the high school, and so. But the ordinance, we're on the side of the street where we're supposed to have an odd number, not an even number, and we understand that. So we've written a letter to ask for a possible exception to that, and we'll be presenting that February 3rd to the city.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Patrick? Patrick, there was a story in the Times Record, I think last week, I guess, which I don't know, in my first reading, I guess, gave the implication that we're running behind, but we still intend to have students in there after the February break, right?
Yes, our intention right now, and we're pushing for this. And, we've had some bumps along the road with, we had another COVID issue today with, a company that delivers certain things. So, but no, I mean, our plan all along was to move in after the February break, and we're still scheduled to move in on February 25th with students. Ultimately, yeah, we were planning to be done with, most of the construction at the end of December, and we're still in there, plugging away to make sure that hopefully we can move in when we say we're going to move in February. So yeah, I guess one could say we are behind from our initial plan, but our intention and hope is that we're still moving in after February break.
Right. Well, we moved that date off from, I think initially we were talking about moving in right after Christmas, and we'd be in the school now. But out of caution, we did move that date off to February, and I think we're still on track to meet that revised timeline. So I just want to reassure folks that we will be in the school, and we're gonna do it certainly as quickly as we can. Okay, 11.2, Finance Committee update, Lorna?
Sure, I'll give it my best shot. January 14th was a busy day for the Finance Committee and then for admin team. In the morning, the Finance Committee started with a presentation from the firm that does an audit of our fiscal year, and that would have been for ending June 30th, 2020. And so we listened to that in the morning, and it was positive. And of course, as we continue through the budget process, we'll need to be looking at cost centers and revenues, and also, as we get final word on how federal CARES money will get distributed and if there will be more coming down the pike. And then in the evening, I think it was that evening, we had a remote meeting with the admin team and principals, and each administrator had a chance to tell us what their priorities were for the upcoming 2021 year. So we're just getting going on the budget process. There's still a lot of unknowns with regard to the further release of CARES money. And we do have a schedule, and I don't have that in my head on when we meet next, unless either one of you remember it. But there will, of course, be public comments throughout the process too, public involvement. So I forget anything?
Yep. Thanks, thanks, Laura. And I think I'd like to, just to acknowledge Deb Clark.
Yeah, of course.
And her folks for working with the auditor. It was, again, as Lorna indicated, it was a clean audit. We still don't have the final letter from the auditor at this point. It will come to the board when we have it. But we are very, it's, not having to worry about how the money is being accounted for in the district. Having as skilled a staff as we have in our business office, I think is something we should all be grateful for.
Yeah, I mean, his common message is always how prepared Deb is, and Deb and the staff is for his arrival to basically go through things, and that's always good to hear. Very comforting.
Great, thanks, Warren.
Yeah, Steve, I would just like to thank Deb and Vita and Anne Marie, and also our office staff in our schools, our secretaries and our principals, because like you said, it's without them, the audit would certainly not go as smooth as it does.
Thanks, Patrick, and thank you all. 11.3, legislative update, Lorna?
Yeah, and that's as well, just getting going. I did sign up for all of the emails and the weekly calendar for the Education and Cultural Affairs Committee. And all of the representatives who are on that committee are listed. This past week has just been a lot of orientation for the committee. There are some bills that there's quite a few titles, and there's a little bit of language attached to some of those bills. There's, of course, bills that we can anticipate that are labor related and dealing with collective bargaining. There's a bill dealing with remote participation at meetings. I think you had asked about this, Steve, last summer. I mean, it does look like the language would allow it to be optional. So even if we meet in person, it allows us to also be remote. So I think before you were wondering, geez, is it always, if it's just remote, is it only remote? And it looks like the language would allow it to be both, as long as the public can participate. And then there's just going to be scads more bills, but there's also one for allowing grandparents to be the caregiver to also apply for family leave under Maine's Family Medical Leave Act, and that would be in case of if grandparents are the primary caregiver. So things are just getting going. Obviously, Patrick is also in touch with Maine School Management, and they keep us updated. But what I can do is when I get more information, I can just push it out to you guys as well. And, it may be that we decide to work more closely with Maine School Management or even testify at something if we're really, really interested in it. But things are just really early right now.
Thank you. Thanks, Lorna. Any questions for Lorna? Okay, thanks, Lorna. Thank you. 12.0, update on reopening. Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, tonight we asked Ross and Jen to be on the line to kind of just give a brief overview of their opening. And I'd like to thank them for their coordination, organization, and attention to detail, because they've had to work pretty closely together because we share busing, we share, we families at both schools, and and so thank you to them. And, I don't think it's any reflection on their efforts at all that unfortunately Fisher Mitchell couldn't start the first week. And then obviously we had, a little bit of a issue last week at the end of the week with Dyke Newell. But again, procedures and were in place and protocols, to help both situations. So I'll stop there and just let maybe have Jen start with just kind of how her first couple of weeks have gone, and positives, and also any challenges.
Sure. So we are just beginning week 3 of coming back at 100%. Positives, it is definitely wonderful to see classrooms with, 13 or 14 kids in them. The students are excited to see the partners from their cohorts that they have not seen all year, really since last March. So some reuniting of old friends, which is really lovely. And staff as well are very excited to have what feels like a more typical classroom, even though, of course, it's still challenging to, keep our COVID protocols in place. It's not typical classroom, but to have all the kids back, it feels more normal. And I think that's a breath of fresh air for everybody. It is going very well. Our days are incredibly busy with 2 arrivals, 2 dismissals, and 5 lunches at our school, which results in a lot of duties. So staff are helping in many, many ways, from riding the special education bus for the B arrivals and dismissals to delivering breakfasts, to everything else involved in making sure that we've covered the supervision needs for all those different transitions for kids. We initially reopened without adding an additional classroom, knowing that we would have space in each grade. That space in kindergarten, we had some unanticipated students move in, from outside the district, as well as a couple kiddos who needed to switch from distance learning to in-person due to some family issues and some social emotional reasons. So we made that happen last week. We put a plan into place, and that new kindergarten class actually began today. It's a very small group, and it gives us some room to add students if needed, if we continue to see increases in our enrollment. We were, of course, wondering how busing would go when we made the switch. Fisher Mitchell and Dyke Newell share buses, which is a challenge in any situation, but when you add 2 additional runs every day, our secretaries worked incredibly hard with Bath Bus to make sure that we were set ahead of time so there'd be as few bumps in the road as possible, no pun intended. And they did go very smoothly. Week 1 was just Dyke Newell, of course, because Fisher was remote. And then week 2, we just had to make some minor adjustments with the order of the buses when Fisher Mitchell came back in person. So kids and staff are happy. They're definitely tired. We've seen some of the predicted increases in behavior that we thought we might see as classes are a bit more full and kids are coming every day. So they're a little bit more worn out, and we've had a couple behavior things that we had not seen yet this year. And then, of course, we had our first positive case that required contact tracing last Friday. At hybrid, it would have been a pretty small group, but at 100%, of course, the impact was a little bit greater. So we're running short-staffed almost every day, but in particular, having to quarantine staff has stretched our resources pretty thin. However, we are at this point able to stay open and not switch to remote, even with the quarantine situation that we have going on this week.
Okay, thanks, Jen. Do you want to break it up for questions? Do we have questions of Jen?
I did one question. I asked this of Jason last week and I haven't heard back, but I was just wondering if you're into this new system long enough to give me an indication of what is the instructional time changed from full in person to the hybrid model?
Sure. We had concerns about that going in, and it is a little bit early to know for certain, but some of the things that I've observed and some of the things that staff have shared with me during those parts of the day where we only have the A cohort or we only have the B cohort because the other group has not arrived yet or has already dismissed, teachers are able to do a little bit more of an intensive literacy piece with the students who are remaining. So that's provided a nice opportunity during the day to do some real focused literacy work with kids. And then I actually just heard from a teacher today that she's found that her math block, having every day now, of course, is wonderful, but her math block has actually increased in length because we're able to pull back a little bit on some of the computer programs that we were utilizing and increase some of the teaching time around specific content areas. So overall, it seems to be at least equal, if not slightly better, when it comes to really that instruction on the focused content areas that we want to make sure we're hitting every day.
Thanks. Any other questions? Yep, Lorna?
I don't really have a question. I just wanted to thank you and all of you so much because I know even when the board was, involved with this enormous decision, knowing the community wanted everyone back 100%, and safety was important, but I think all of us also knew that really personnel and staffing and start-stop was going to be real. And I just want to thank you so far. I know it's still early, but that's proven out, and we know we're not done with that. So just thank you to all of you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay. Ross?
Sure. So I'd echo minus the kindergarten parts. I would echo a lot of what Jen said. So my biggest concerns were the unknowns of how the arrivals and the dismissals and the breakfast and the lunches work out. And from a utilitarian or a utility functional standpoint, things are going really smoothly. Both arrivals and dismissals, the kids knew the routines before with the hybrid, so they basically were just if for the staffing purposes, we're just doubling the amount of time that it takes for the kids to get to school. My fourth grade has 16 kids in each class, so there's too many kids for them to have breakfast, for the second cohort to have breakfast in the classroom. So when the set group comes in, they put their stuff down, they go to the cafeteria, and then we have somebody in the cafeteria who allows those kids to eat in cohorts. And then when they're done breakfast, they go back to the classroom. And so it's things like that the kids and the staff are both doing an excellent job of just, very smoothly following the routines and making things happen. We're trying to tighten up our the first dismissal a little bit because working with Dyke and Fisher Mitchell each day, we're able to fine tune it a little bit so we can eke out some more time. And last week, I think we fixed it. But last week there was 2 days when we backed up traffic with the second drop off with a number of families dropping their kids off and the buses coming in, sort of blocked traffic on High Street. But it looks like so far between Friday and today, what we've done to alleviate that has fixed it. So that's going smoothly. We're able to still service all of our kids in their individual cohorts. So that's nice to see. So in addition to the regular classroom instruction, kids are being pulled out for all of their Title I and special ed services, going really well. It's, it's pretty smooth. The kids are trying really hard, and the staff's trying really hard. I would say, I would like to add, like I think I said at the last meeting, being grateful for the nurses and stuff, but I give a shout out to the teaching staff as well, because I know it's not just at Fisher Mitchell, because it's at all the schools, but the adults the teachers want to challenge the kids, they want to excite the kids, they want to motivate the kids, and they want to do all these things while they also want to keep all of the kids safe and follow all the protocols. And so doing all of that is both emotionally and physically exhausting. So they are given 110%, trying to make all of it work. Planning is a little bit more difficult because it's the way they have to teach is all new. And so at Fisher Mitchell, one of the dilemmas is finding, since the specials are occurring in the classrooms, the teachers can go elsewhere for their planning, but it's not the same as if you had access to all of your stuff in your room. But we're trying to find more spaces for them to go, but it's still not the same as when they're in their own rooms. But again, it was the unknowns of how fluid basically the comings and the goings and the lunches and the breakfast and all that was going to work. And that part's working out really well. And now it's just trying to figure out ways to, keep the kids and the staff moving in the rooms, because it's definitely a little bit different. It's nice to see the kids be able to say, see you tomorrow, or when we take our lunch count on a Monday, not say, what do you guys want for lunch on Thursday when they come back, because they're back the next day. So we can do that. And the last thing I would say is, I think Jen had hit on this also, is I'm I'm not nervous, but I'm a little bit, I'm always on a little edge with the staffing, because we have just enough, every staff is being utilized, pretty much all the time. So if there's a little hiccup, you need to pull somebody, it impacts another, protocol areas. So as an example, we have somebody who is at the kitchen as the kids go in to get their breakfast. And because we want to keep the cohorts separate, a group of kids will go in, and then after they go through the kitchen, the person next to the next group go in. But if somebody can't ride the bus for the special ed bus, and one of my staff have to ride the bus, then that person can't be at the door. And so you got to get somebody else. And so if they're all little puzzle pieces and we're all making it work. But that part makes me a little nervous, but like I said, everybody's giving it their all and making it work really well. And I'm sure she would ask me in a couple of weeks, but as far as instruction goes, I think it's probably too early for us because we've only been doing it for a week. We are using the nice thing about the morning and the afternoon is we can use that time with the half the kids to both do, some of their IXL diagnostic or some other skill-based work and do a much better job or not better job, but a more focused job of working with a fewer kids, either at the beginning of the day or the end of the day.
Okay, thanks, Ross. Questions for Ross? Yeah, Jen?
Ross, you just made me think of something that I think it applies to all of our schools, but I really hear this with you and Jen just saying how thin your staff is and how staff is getting utilized, in many, many different areas during the course of a day. And I would just ask that when we reach these issues of where a staff member is positive or trying to find out the exposure that any staff member has had to the larger community of the school, I would just ask that there's a lot of thought that goes into all of those last minute changes and sending people in different places to really think back on how many students that one person has impacted. But I know everyone's looking at that. I'm sure the protocols are going well. It reminds me of my time in the school system where, you need to be able to move quickly to answer the issues that are right there. And it's awful hard sometimes to remember all the places you've been in the course of a day. If you've had a busy schedule that's taken you a lot of places and how long you've been impacted. So I would just ask that everyone's aware of that. And then I would also ask you, so we have a notice on our report here that there's going to be a change in 3rd grade. And I just wondering how that's affecting your in-person training for a 3rd grade teacher. Is that impacting your plans or your ability to deliver in person?
No, I think, well, what I need to do is get somebody into that position. And that's pretty much our only solution. And so that's what we're working on right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just to speak to that first comment, if I could, we actually ran into that today because we had, I think, a dozen staff out when it came time to count them all up. And we had a number of people volunteering to pitch in and help. And so we were very kind of conscious about how many different groups. If somebody's volunteering to help out, that's wonderful. But then if another person were to become sick, how many different groups does that individual touch? And so we did a couple of things. We, would put people into a duty that's certainly not 15 minutes of exposure if it's a hallway duty or something of that nature, and wouldn't hit our contact tracing kind of criteria. And then if it were longer and we had to do it, we asked people to keep logs of which groups they were working with and tried to limit how many different groups people were working with.
Log, great, thank you.
That type of stuff is on the forefront, I think, in all the buildings with the nurses and the staffs. Limiting, being conscious of how many minutes you're within, 6 feet of somebody, and limiting the amount of cross sort of contamination you'd say, or exposure, because going back in contact tracing can be difficult. So you want to keep it as clean and crisp as possible.
Yeah, I'll add one more thing. I think, in talking with the principals daily, your worry, Jen, was, that they keep it in mind. I would say, I almost smiled when you said it because I think it's like 80% of what they think about all day long, which is why, knock on wood, our procedures and protocols are working because everybody is taking it so seriously, the principals, the staff, and it's, I felt nothing but proud at how well things have been going so far. So it's really nice to hear Jen and Ross reiterate that because I think that the systems are working, which is great.
Yeah, I love that suggestion of a log, just because I think it's hard sometimes if you come to the end of the day to remember every last minute thing you've been pulled to go do, and just and I know they're trying to juggle so many other things, just one more thing to have to keep track of, but
I mean,
I wish we didn't.
Even to the point where, Ross, in reviewing one of the last times this happened, they watched all the footage on the cameras to see who was talking with whom, if somebody had a hallway duty. So that's as careful as people are.
Wow,
as they're
that's
being
great.
right now.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Any other questions for Jen or Ross? I mean, I think the staffing issue and the pressure on, is a pressure on all districts. I know we know that. I mean, it's certainly not an RSU1 thing. But trying to find qualified substitutes and folks out there who can fill in if we have these vacancies for absences on our teaching and support staff is tough. It's tough for everybody. We'll have to tough that one out to the end of the year, no doubt. Any other comments? No? Okay, Ross, Jen, thank you very much. Patrick, do you have anything else you want to say on that? Or?
No, I think we're good at this point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, 13.0. Tanner.
Yeah, I'll start. And I think Jonah is here joining us.
Yeah, Jonah's online.
Okay, yeah, so they'll continue after me. So today and tomorrow are the first days of the second semester, or, depending on which cohort you're in. Exciting new classes for a lot of people, new opportunities, it's nice. Change of pace. Moore's swim team defeated Camden Hills in their semi-virtual meet last Friday. Semi-virtual meeting, they each compete in their home pools and compare times. The Morris Green Club held a Bath Waterfront cleanup event last Wednesday. Nice cleaning up our community. And the esports team had sign-ups at the beginning of the month to continue their efforts for the spring season.
Thanks, Tanner. Jonah, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
There you are.
Gotcha. So a couple things I wanted to touch on was the formation of the Morse Chess Club. They play games. It's more so a team than a club. They play games against other teams through online chess. And I have friends in the program, and I know that they've found it to be sort of a bright spot in things recently. So that's good. And I also wanted to talk about the distance week. I think that was tough for students with the change of pace and everything, like the immediate sort of left turn. But I think the student body has rebounded well into the return to the hybrid after the week off. Well, not off, but yeah.
Going full old.
Thanks.
It was difficult, you said? I mean.
Yeah, I would think that both students and their teachers, I think the correspondence between them was a little bit more difficult than it would have been having 2 days a week of in-person.
Thanks.
Hey, Josh, if you can ask any of your chess team friends, does the Queen's Gambit really work or not? I have a new interest in chess now. I'd like to hear from someone who's playing it. If they use it, does it work? And should I learn?
I will ask them, definitely.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks. Any questions of Tanner or Jonah aside from the Queen's Gambit? No. Okay, 14.0 Superintendent's Report. Patrick, good news?
Sure. We're beginning to work with Sweetser more than ever, and as they've received some additional funding to offer some additional resources for families and also for staff during this challenging time. So our principals are going to begin to be reaching out. It could be a virtual small group meeting for some parents. It could be for staff. Again, the goal is to be supportive with different issues that they might be experiencing now. Also for staff, our district wellness team, led by Tim and also some other key staff, are offering a wellness bingo challenge to encourage fun and healthy activities as we get through this winter season. As Jonah just mentioned, as you guys know as well, we had to quickly pivot between in-person and remote learning at a couple of our buildings. I mean, we all want 100% in-person, and we know that's best. But it's been positive to see how our capacity to conduct remote learning has grown since last spring. And it's hard work. It's difficult work. And I'd like to thank the staff in general and our technology team for all the efforts to improve that, and also to Katie and our principals for the additional resources that we've provided to students and to families and to teachers in general. CARES money, keep calling it CARES money, but I guess we should be calling it ESSER money. And we did receive word at the end of last week that we're slated to get an additional 1.8 million. And applications should be released by the end of this week for people to start if they'd like. But basically, we don't have all the details at this time, but we do know the prediction is 1.8 million, and we have until September of 23 to spend this money. So again, from a strategic standpoint, we don't know what next year is going to look like yet. We did hire, as you know, some staff, teaching staff in person, also remote staff. We are spending more on Bath Bus. We're spending more on custodial staff. Will that have to continue next school year? So this 1.8, again, the nice part about it is that it can be, it can go over a couple of year period. So I just wanted you to be aware of that, and we'll, keep you apprised and as we move forward with that. And as it's been mentioned a couple times this evening, though, is even though we have more money, that challenge of finding staff is not going to go away just because we have more money. But it is a positive thing for us as a district to be receiving that amount. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Patrick. Question to Patrick? Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick, I don't know if this is for you or for Katie, but as we start working more with Sweetser, is there any plans to start using, and I'm just doing some initial research on this, but something called a behavioral health screener program that we have in existence already in the district? Would we be using that tool with the Sweetser people, or is that not something that they would be working with?
The behavior screener we use for RTI and the lower grades is a long acronym. It's called the SRSS. There's more letters. So I'm not sure of the one that you're speaking of. There are a lot of different ones out there, but we do have one that our teachers would do regularly on students, and that's part of our tiered intervention system.
And that wouldn't be something that Sweetser was helping us with?
No, this is a teacher-based one.
Okay, all right.
I'm not sure what Sweetser uses, but we do have one that we use.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from Patrick? Patrick, just on the additional funding that you indicated that we have yet to apply for that, right? So there's an application process.
Correct. Yeah, and maybe by Friday, it may be out, and it's usually you get at least a month or two to submit, the applications, and they can change. You can submit an application with your plans, and if plans change, you can always resubmit things, but that's the process.
And we did have some unexpended federal funds. I say unexpended. Our ability to spend those ran out at the end of December. Is that 1.8? Does that subsume any leftover balances, or are there any leftover balances that we can access?
There's not going to be any leftover balance in the CARES 1 money that we received. In CARES 2, and Deb can speak to this too under her report, but under CARES 2, we're looking at some calculations now. We do have some money left in there, but we also need to calculate any additional staff that we might need from now until June. So we do have through the end of June, we believe, to be able to spend the remaining amount of CARES 2. So that's good news. It provides us with some more flexibility in addition to that 1.8 million.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Any other questions of Patrick? No? Thanks, Patrick. 14.2, financial report. Deb, you out there?
I'm here. Hello, everyone. And you all can hear me fine, right?
Yes. Yep.
So we're looking at the end of December tonight. So basically we're 6 months into our fiscal year. We've spent 16.5 million out of our almost $38 million budget, or 43%. So our salaries are probably a little bit under. Next month, you'll see the encumbered amount, because we were spending charging a handful of those to federal funds, and that has stopped for our regular staff that were budgeted this year. So, and I'll touch on that in a minute when I move on to the CARES money. Revenue, we're at about 53%, so things are coming in as planned. Our state subsidies in a little bit higher than the 50%, and that's due to the amount that we received for debt service. So moving on to the federal funds, basically we have 4 pots of money, which is a good thing. So the 1.8 that Patrick just talked about, that's new money, but the other 3 amounts, the CRF1, CRF2, and then the RSU1, we still have some balances there. In our CRF1, we're able to support the 18 staff members that we have in place right now between remote and on-site learning. We have 5 ed techs, 5 teachers, 2 substitutes, a distance learning tutor, and then we have 5 part-time staff that we increased to full-time staff. So those amounts of money will be able to be supported by CRF1, because we can spend that now through the end of June. So that's a great thing. Administrators are going to work on a plan, like Patrick said, on the 1.8 million, and we'll see where it all goes next year. Morse High School, we're nearing the end. We've spent 68 million of our 75. So we're getting down to the end with that. And that's about it. Questions?
Thanks, Deb. Any questions of Deb?
I had one.
Lorna?
Deb, I'm just trying to refresh my memory. I don't know if maybe Jen maybe you brought this up, either an admin team on January 14th or not. At some point, could the board get just a little summary of the 4 pots of money included in some future financial reports, just general, not the whole full-on paperwork that you have to deal, but just a summary of the CRF 1, 2, and the URSA 1, 2.
Sure.
And where it was spent?
And where it was spent, yeah, just
Yeah.
generally, just
Just
not, again, you don't need to send the full federal applications and all that and receipts, and if that's possible. I think you might have brought that up, Jen. at some
Yeah,
point.
it would just be nice, like, how many teachers, what grades, or, how many, where the staff were allocated to this, or,
Yeah, more just for my frame of reference with the
Sure.
different places.
All right.
Because when
I
the
can do
paper reports, yeah, when the Times Record or someone releases it, I feel like sometimes I just feel like I don't know it. It's the first time I've seen it, which I've obviously heard about it many times, but that would be great.
Okay, will do.
Okay, thanks, Deb. Any other questions? Yeah. No? Okay, thank you very much, Deb.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, 15.0, old business. Again, we have 4 policies that are on second reading, so these are our action items. And we can take them all together or one at a time.
I move we take them all together.
Okay, we'll take them all
Second
together. Okay, so we have a second reading of board policy ADC, tobacco-free schools, use and possession of tobacco and electronic smoking devices. Second reading of board policy KHB, advertising in the schools. Second reading of board policy KCD, public gifts / donations to the schools, and a second reading of board policy KHC, distribution of non-school materials. Again, these are all action items. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Lou, a second.
Second.
Second by Bill. Any questions or comments on any of these?
One quick question.
Sure.
These pretty much rise up to the surface just from maybe updates from main school management, and then it goes through policy committee? Okay.
Yep.
That was it.
Any other questions, comments? No? So all in favor of approving these 4 policies? Any opposed? No, okay, it's unanimous, thank you. Okay, under new business, 16.1 personnel items, Patrick?
Yeah, I would like to just thank Joan Newkirk, who's a 3rd grade teacher at Fisher Mitchell. She's going to be resigning here in middle of February, and I would just like to thank her for her 30 plus years of service to the district.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Amazing.
I would repeat that as well. Joan's been a real strength at that school for a long time. Thank you for your service, Joan.
Thank you.
Okay, nothing else there? 16.2 is board committee assignments. Patrick had, or Vita had included a list of current board assignments in your packet. This is an opportunity to take a look and decide whether or not, I mean, you don't need to get feedback tonight, but decide whether or not you'd like to move to a different committee, or if you're satisfied. I did ask Jamie, I'm not gonna put her on the spot, but I did ask Jamie about policy, and I think she did agree to go on policy. Thanks. The finance committee, although there are some assigned members here, the meetings, as all the committee meetings, are open to all board members, but we encourage as much participation as you can. And Bill holds down our facilities committee at this point. So,
Alan Walton still serves on that committee as a volunteer. Community member.
Mhm.
Oh,
Nice.
that's great.
that's great.
Steve, is the Shariki exchange program even happening right now? I
I'm
assume
sorry?
not.
No,
The exchange program, I assume that's not
No.
happening, right?
right now, for the moment. Personally,
I don't know.
well, no, nobody's going to.
Nobody's going.
But I don't know if they're doing anything in replacement of
Oh,
actually
I don't
physically
know.
going. I don't know. Okay.
I don't know.
Is the patent free new, Anita, or I just don't remember? The
No.
patent free?
No, there's,
No. Sometimes we rotate that every year. I don't know. Anita, if you wanna-
If anybody's interested, they're more than welcome.
I think it's great. that-
I like the library. I'm
Yeah.
honored to be able to participate, but I'm not married to it.
So anyways, if the patent-free library, if you're interested in that, we can speak and talk to Anita about that. Otherwise, take a look at the list. If you want to move to a different committee, let us know. Okay, we encourage as much committee participation as possible. Thanks. Okay, 16.3. I'm going to give this first to Patrick. This is a vote to authorize the acquisition of property, an action item. Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit of history. We were approached by a realtor back, I don't know, a couple months ago, whether we had any interest in purchasing this piece of property. And, we went back and forth, and then eventually they came back and said, we'd like to I'd like to give this piece of property to this school district because it does abut our property of the new high school project. And so, so we felt like, it's, a no-brainer that we would accept this land. It provides us with a little bit more, protection. It's not a great piece that we would use for like a building or anything like that, but it is something that would, again, protect our site even more. And so that's this piece here tonight that we'd like to have you approve so that we can get all of the technical detail that we need to get done, with the deed and everything. So it's really a donation of property. And it's, again, it's abuts our high school land.
Thanks, Patrick. Any questions for Patrick?
Is there anything on it now?
There isn't. It's just, I can't sit here and pretend I know everything about it, but what I've been told about it is, no, there is no structure on it. It's just a piece of property that's the way it is laid out, and the topography of it isn't something that you would, that we would probably build something on either.
Okay.
Okay. So, before we read the motion, I just want to ask clarification, Patrick, just in reading the motion, not so much the motion, but what falls below that, the secretary's certification.
Yes.
I think we have to do a roll call vote. Am I reading it right? It says a roll call.
Yeah, I think if you did a roll call and then I can fill this in, this evening and sign off on it. So yeah, we probably should after the motion is done, and probably do that formality.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
All right, you want me to read it?
Yep.
Okay. I'm reading a couple paragraphs here. I move that the vote entitled "Vote to Authorize Acquisition of Real Property in Bath, West Bath" be adopted in form presented to this meeting, and that the secretary file an attested copy of said vote with the minutes of this meeting. Vote to authorize acquisition of real property in Bath, West Bath. The School Board of Regional School Unit Number 1 votes as follows. Pursuant to sections 15901(4)C and 15904 of the Maine Revised Statutes, all other applicable law and voter approval of the new high school construction project at a referendum held November 7, 2017, Superintendent of Schools is authorized to take all necessary lawful actions to acquire a certain parcel of land consisting of approximately 1.47 acres located in Bath and West Bath from Plant Home Supportive Services Corporation as described in the deed recorded in the Saginaw County Registry of Deeds in Book 396, page 1142, at a purchase price of $0 to become part of the new high school property.
okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Bill. Okay, so I'll call the roll. Jamie?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Lou?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Linda?
Aye.
Lorna?
Aye.
Tammy?
Aye.
Jonah, are you out there? And I vote aye as well. So any, all ayes, no opposition. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, 17.0, next meeting dates and locations. I did talk to all of you about perhaps having a special meeting, a remote meeting in a couple of weeks to a workshop just to discuss board goals. And if that still is agreeable, I'll work with Patrick to set that up. We'll do it remotely.
Set up a date.
And again, to revisit the goals. Jen had done a great job of keeping us on our goal target, but with everything else that's happened over the last several months, we've fallen away from it a little bit, but I think we should always look for opportunities to focus ourselves on things, beyond COVID, beyond the new high school. So We'll get some dates out. I don't know if any nights are better than others. It will, you know, I think this is probably an hour commitment of time. And like I said, we'll do it remotely in a couple of weeks. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 22nd at Bath Middle School at 6 o'clock. You know, we had originally, or a year or so ago, we had decided to begin to rotate our meetings between buildings or among buildings during budget season, rather than do it early on in the year. So this would be the time when we would start visiting our other schools and conducting meetings there. I'm not sure that that's practical. You know, we may have to put that in suspension for now, and hopefully folks will understand why we're doing that. But as we do begin to conduct our budget, as we incorporate more and more budget of our budget discussions into our regular meetings, and then start to do our public hearings on budget, we'll make every effort to engage the public as effectively as we can going forward. It is a difficult thing to do, but it's not that we're not trying. I just want to make sure everyone knows that.
Keith, I'd like to just make a note that communication is difficult, but that we keep our municipalities in mind when we are doing our budget in that communication piece. I know that sometimes in the past we've gone to their town meetings or not town meetings, select board meetings to make a presentation, which I'm sure we won't maybe need to do now, but it would be interesting if maybe we could have something like that electronically, specifically with select boards in different towns, to just hear their concerns and present things and have that same kind of ability to talk with them as we get closer, to help them understand all the unique things in our budget this year.
That was part of our broader plan of getting out to the public, was to conduct that unique meeting for elected officials who wanted to participate. And we'll give it every shot to try to hold them. Okay, are there any other business, any other issues? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Bill,
I'll second.
second by Lana, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.